I can just hear Aisha's words saying news is important to us. It's all around us. It's what. So this news that's important to us and all around us, it's time for us to get into the ones that have been captured in the various newspapers. Welcome aboard the newspaper review segment. And of course, Benjamin Akapo is here. Blue, you see the color of your eyes.
It does,
Yeah. Blue looks really.
I mean, for a moment, I thought you were going to say I had blue eyes. I mean, which color scheme are you looking at?
But just before we usher in our guests, Benjamin will tell you about Endpoint's Homeopathic Clinic and some of the amazing free services they're offering.
Well, now that she's put it that way, what can I do? Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic every weekday helps us bring you this segment. And as always, they're bringing you same. If you're a man, they're offering you prostate screening. If you've not seen my prostate watch, you should check it out because there are so many things that could go on with your prostate. I'm personally dealing right now with someone who has some, really harsh consequences as a result of prostate disease. You don't want to get that. If you're a woman and you don't know what your fertility status is, I mean, there are so many things that could happen, especially if you've not given birth and you want to do so. That is why you ought to get yourself screened from time to time. Some people in these two areas, they've never checked anything. They just feel, oh, everything is fine. But that's how our bodies are. Without checking, you will not know. You can get this free screening from Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic at any of their branches, starting from here in Accra. They are at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. Then in Kumasi, Konoma behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady, Anaji State, Tema, Community 22, Techiman, Hanswa, and Esiaman Zama. If you'd like to call them, there are two numbers, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Oh, this morning you didn't join me. Let's do it well. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic.
The end to chronic disease. Bringing us to the starts of the newspaper review segment. Why am I just hearing other people's words in my head this morning? But joining us for this segment is Nana Sapong. He's political assistant to Alan Tremantin of the ARC. Nana Sapong, welcome to the program. Hope you're well.
Grace has found me, my sister. Good morning.
Great. So, like we do, you have just about a minute, at most two, to react to something that's occupied space in your head. Could be political. I mean, what's on your mind this morning?
What's actually on my mind this morning has to do with the natural resources of our nation. And yesterday, I think some of your newspapers actually had the opportunity of carrying it out. If you did look at the Chronicle, it was talking about the 100% ownership of the natural resources by Ghanaians. And there were a few points that were made clearly by the leader of the ARC. And I think that what I would want to say about it is that it is hard time that we actually stop doing politics, partisan politics with certain aspects of our national economy. And if we did so, it would help us. We need to be able to look at it holistically and also because it is of high interest to Ghanaians and it has a direct effect and impact on Ghanaians. We should be able to look at those issues with a clear mind, non-partisan mind, and issue recommendations that would help growth of our economy. Basically, that is what I actually wanted to make a point on. Yes.
Right. Point noted. Let's get straight into the newspaper, starting with the Daily Guide newspaper. On the front page, it says NDC goons fired shots at Peace Council. EC bounces NDC BVR request. Baumia eyes blockchain to fight corruption. Security chiefs visit troops in Sandema. and over 2,000 registered babies fatherless. That's a report. Let's start with a story about EC bouncing NDC BVR request, right? And it's on page 3 of the Daily Guide newspaper. And it reads, the Electoral Commission has turned down a request by the National Democratic Congress for serial numbers of the biometric voter registration kits currently deployed in the field for the limited voters registration exercise to be supplied to the party. The Commission said releasing these serial numbers to any external parties, including political entities, poses a substantial risk to the security and integrity of the registration process. Quote, the Commission wishes to highlight that the integrity and security of our electoral processes are paramount. The EC indicated in a statement released yesterday. I'll put a pin in that, do 2 more stories before we take our reaction so that we can beat the time. Over 2,000 registered babies fatherless. That's also on page 3 of the Daily Guide newspaper. The 2022 statistical report on birth registration revealed that a total of 2,099, which is 0.3% of all registered births, have doubtful paternity cases, situations in which the identity of the father of the child is not known. The Upper East region has the highest percentage of doubtful paternity cases, followed by Central region and then Western region and the Volta region. Now, almost all registered births, 99.9% in the Upper West, Bono East, Ashanti, Savannah, North and Northeast regions, are known paternity cases. That is, the identity of the fathers are not known. That's an interesting one. And then the final story I'll do before we come to some reactions will be NDC goons fired shots at Peace Council. So the National Peace Council has refuted claims by the chairman of the National Democratic Congress that it's misled the party to withdraw its agents from the Electoral Commission's strong room during the collation of the 2020 presidential election. Mr. Asiedun Ketia recently attacked the integrity of members of the NPC at a meeting with some members of the party. He asserted that the NPC promises to call a meeting with stakeholders to discuss the escalating tension at the time, where the reasons NDC agents left the EC strong room, indicating that it was not done out of their own free will. Nana Sapong, these 3 stories for your reactions.
Okay, so the first one I would want to look at that which has to do with social services. In my view, that has to do with the birth and death registry, registering some children who are fatherless.
Yeah.
I would want to say that every child has a father, of course, but they are not known, unfortunately. This to me is something that we ought to be able to look at as a people. We should be able to orient our girl child to be able to speak up. If you push further these women who have had these children in these hospitals, you would realize that they do know their fathers, but probably for certain reasons, they do not want their fathers, the fathers of their children, to be known. And these are very good for our documentations. And so they should be able to orient these mothers when they start their antenatal care. And once you have a mother's name in the antenatal care book, I think from the onset, the father's name should also be able to appear on the antenatal care book, so that just from the pregnancy, you know who the child's father is.
Right.
Fathers, we are being more responsible lately. And I think that it's a hard time that we take responsibility of our own actions, and it's good that we know. It helps the children. I mean, these things have long-term effect on the psyches of these kids, especially when they grow up in societies and they begin to attend schools and you are asked about your parents and you do not know who your father is, really has effects. Even children who are born through the artificial
insemination,
way,
yeah.
The hospitals still have details of fathers who donated their sperm. So it's always good when you know your parents, so it helps. Okay, so moving on to the issue about the elections, that is the release of the serial numbers of the kid by the EC. I want to come out from the point where the preparations started. I said earlier on the platform, I said that there were certain recommendations that would have come during the IPAC meetings. The EC has made us to understand that the IPAC meetings and it's not a decision-making body, we understand, but there would have been some recommendations that would have come towards the preparations and towards the registration of the new voters. We should be able to go back to those recommendations that were made, because the parties that were represented would have satisfied if such recommendations were being implemented. On the other hand, what is the other party's also stance on the EC's decision not to release this year?
Niall, pardon my interjection, but I feel you're not hitting the nail on the head. The issue has arisen. We know of the BVRs and BVDs, some of them missing, some of them stolen apparently, others sold off or auctioned. And now, in respect of these kits, the NDC is crying foul that, listen, in that case, if you say it's a batch, a certain group, and this and that, give us serial numbers so that we can track each one. And the EC says no. In fact, it says its rationale, it cites security risks, integrity of the electoral system, operations of the... Please, if you may, let me land. Then integrity of the electoral system and its operations. You are assuming that IPAC may have said something about that. We don't know. So we're asking, what is your thinking on that? The MPP, you said you didn't know whether any other party had spoken. The MPP has said, I mean, this is much ado about nothing. You know, there's also the problem of if the NDC is in power and the Electoral Commission does anything, the NDC will support the Electoral Commission. If the MPP is in power, the Electoral Commission does anything, the MPP will support. Those are the angles we want you to look at. Nanaya.
So as I was saying, whatever that the other parties would have said, okay, would also have an impact on the decisions of the EC. Now, what I am saying is that there should be a meeting point. What is the effect of the release of these serial numbers? Has it any security implications? Now, if there are, what are the security implications? Because mostly what we do, most organizations do, is that we run under the carpet under certain terminologies. Now, if we are the parties that are involved in these elections, if we are stakeholders in these elections, and these are tools that you are using for these elections, and we are requesting that you present to us the serial numbers, one, because you say that you have issues and that you have to actually let go some old ones and you have to bring in some new ones, we should be able to know, in fact, which ones were let go, which ones have been brought in, and what impact it does have. We should be able to track certain lines, because at the end of the day, the new people you are registering, so we are the same parties, including we those who are running independent. We are the same people that
Nana, are you backing calls for the release of these serial numbers? Is that what you're saying? Are you saying the ARC would also want the EC to release the serial numbers, even on the back of them saying that it will allow, unauthorized access, targeted attacks on these devices, which could affect the integrity of the elections?
When you are releasing certain information to certain stakeholders, I believe that there is a code within which you are able to release these informations that does not trigger security breaches. And so if there is a system where it can make everybody know and everybody be satisfied, because we are talking about elections here, and the piece of the election which we are calling for starts from these levels of preparations. So if from the beginning or from the start of the game, certain parties are unsatisfied, then it has a long-term effect on the end of the day. So if we want to actually have peaceful process and have a peaceful election, let us start it from today. I mean, the NDC is already accusing the National Peace Council and that trial to the release of the results in 2020, they were convinced to leave the EC strong room. You understand? Peace Council is already being compromised. So, in my view, even the NDC does not trust the Peace Council again.
Right.
And so, if we have any opportunity to be able to prove ourselves as an institution that we are able to handle this election peacefully without any interferences, then let us be able to satisfy every single stakeholder's own interest. And that is what I'm talking about.
All right.
I mean, there are definitely ways the ECI is able to release these kinds of informations without triggering any security breach.
All right, points noted. So I'll do some more quick headlines and then we move on to the daily Searchlight before Benjamin comes in. Mahama setting stage to blame EC when he loses. That's according to Dr. Samuel Doche. Capacity training of climate change CSOs needs to be enhanced. Takoradi Port supports Western Region GJA. Media blackouts on Farouk Aliu Mahama lifted. 125 gets Goldfield scholarships. On the back page, making our stadium safe, biggest tribute to May 9th victims. And then kissing FA boss stands trial. That's the story of Jennifer Homeso, who embraced Luis Rubiales after he won the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. And that's that for the Daily Guide newspaper. The Daily Searchlight on the front page, is he eligible to contest election 2024 or not? Supreme Court to decide John Mahama's fate. Mr. Promiser Baobia with more wild promises to turn universities into mining companies to buy caterpillars for miners. Looting of state lands in Wa to end. Attorney General calls for full media coverage of cases on human sexual rights and family values bill. We've delved into this. My goal is for Ghana to have the first blockchain-powered government in Africa, according to Dr. Baumia. Those are just some headlines. Because of time, Benjamin, unless you have some reactions to this, let's get into your papers.
No, I do not for now. Are you going to take any reactions from Nanayo, or should I come in?
Nanayo, any of these headlines you want to react to quickly?
Yes. First of all, I just want to plead with the Supreme Court. I think that this case has been there far too long. It's becoming very sensational, and that the decision of the Supreme Court has an effect on many people. And so it is time probably that they come out with their decisions once and for all, whether or not he can run or he cannot run, because this is a whole, they are a stakeholder in Ghana's democracy, looking at the previous elections that we have held. Now, on the other hand, about that which has to do with our, I don't know if you mentioned it, the growing of trees and our forestation.
No, I didn't.
Believe.
But go ahead.
Okay, and then I have it written down. So I think let's move ahead then.
Benjamin.
All right, let's check out some stories from the New Finder newspaper. Jinapo calls for increased forest finance at UN Forum. Forward operating base in Sandema, vital in fight against terrorism. That's according to security heads. EC NDC clash over BVR kit serial numbers. And then we'll adopt blockchain for data security and detect corruption. That's according to Dr. Baumia. You know, so many things are being thrown in on the technological front. My head is beginning to spin, and I'm beginning to ask. I'll reserve my thoughts.
Man, why are you reserving your thoughts?
No, because we are being hit with so many technological this and technological that, but you look at even our technological basis, the basics we could have, and you begin to ask yourself, are we not, it's like that saying, when pigs fly, or building castles in the air. I mean, it must be progressive, but you don't see certain infrastructure even yet, and yet we're dreaming of certain things, and sometimes it just makes you wonder whether we are building on sand or building in the air. But anyway, let's get details of that story. Let me bring you details of that, then you can react. The story is on page 8. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia says the next stage of Ghana's digitalization journey is to become the first blockchain-powered government in Africa to fight corruption. With the increasing influence of with the increasing infusion of digitalization into the provision of government services and everyday life, adopting blockchain as the highest level of data security in the provision of such services. The blockchain technology is capable of identifying and discovering any changes in digital data to trace all transactions in the governance space. I've also heard him level accusations against different groupings, and but anyway, like I said, that is that. This one as well, organizational culture key to business success. Ken Thompson says so. Director of Dalex Finance, Ken Thompson, has challenged businesses in Ghana to prioritize the development of a robust organizational culture to ensure their survival. Many Ghanaian businesses grapple with establishing a positive organizational culture among their staff, resulting in various challenges which negatively impact the organization. And he says organizational culture is key to business success. Quick thoughts on this before I do other stories?
Yes, Ben, as you were saying, I have also had issues when government is trying to push down our truth, the issue of on digitalization, and we are running almost everything around that. And then we would ask our questions as you have asked. Do we have the infrastructure to support what we're talking about? We actually spent so much of our time and our money building on something that has no foundation. And at the end of the day, the wind would blow and everything goes down the drain. If we're able to sit down for a minute and think through about it, build the foundation, have a proper infrastructure in place, that we also have proper human resource training, that they are able to actually also implement the policy framework on digitalization that has a long-term effect on the entire economy, then we will be talking about digitalization. But I think that we actually running ahead. We always want to do things without putting down the fundamentals. When we have something we call the business regulatory reforms that actually had to do with bringing about tools to help all businesses, put them on one platform that they're able to actually access registrations and other services online. This was done by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. I think it was 2007, end of 2007, beginning of 2018, 2018, thereabout. Now you would understand that it took the ministry a very long time, almost a year or so, to be able to establish and make its agencies and the agencies that are involved understand the whole idea of business regulations and putting it on one platform. We're able to gather all the data that we needed from all these agencies, from the Ghana Standards Authority, from the FDA, from the Registrar General's Department, and all of that. And if you have a solid foundation, building becomes very easy and you are able to move faster. So I think that we need the infrastructure, we need the foundation well done, and then we can have a solid digitalization. Right. That one would help us as a nation. Yes.
Right. Let me quickly get on to other stories. 2 alleged WhatsApp hackers arrested for stealing 200,000 Ghana cedis. Now, in a significant crackdown on cybercrime, Ghanaian security agencies have arrested 2 young men, Abdul Latif Abubakar, 22, and Mahmoudou Arafat Yasser, 24, for their involvement in a WhatsApp fraud scheme. Now, the arrest took place in Langbensi and Gambaga in the northeast region following an extensive intelligence-led operation. The operation was spurred by a report from a Ghanaian living in the United States who fell victim to a WhatsApp account takeover, a sophisticated form of cyber fraud. Through this method, the perpetrators gained unauthorized access to WhatsApp accounts by manipulating the account verification process to obtain the required 6-digit verification code. How does that happen, though? Because if you have 2-step verification or authentication, and we're supposed to be safe, right? Anyway, so once they had access, the suspects contacted the victim's friends and family to solicit funds under various guises, leading to substantial financial losses totaling more than 200,000 Ghana cedis. Now, that is a cause for worry. But let me just add this. Let me just add this, and then we can all react to them. Installation of new traffic lights in Tamale begins after youth petition. Installation works for additional traffic light systems have begun in the Tamale metropolis after a youth group petitioned the authorities in the area. It has to do with Sarah Junction. But I bring that up as well because many pockets of Accra, I don't know whether right before you connect to the beach road in front of La Palm, Royal Beach, and then Labadi Beach Hotel, whether that has been rectified. Oftentimes, that stretch has problems.
It's not. It's one of my regular routes. It's not.
I know places in East Legon, around the University of Ghana, saying, I know so many spots, Achimota, there are certain spots. And the last time, I nearly witnessed an accident because the traffic signals were not working. Everybody was trying to. And sometimes it does result in accidents. I don't get it. Would you like to react first?
It's gotten to the point where sometimes, before I can remember when that happens, some individuals, opt to help, direct traffic so that there's some...
Yeah, but that's not even their role.
Not anymore. These days, you see someone standing there trying to take control of the situation, and drivers don't even want to care that there's someone trying to help us restore some sort of sanity. Where are we going with this?
But that is where the police, the MTTD, also
they seem to be
because these spots are known. They are known.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that these areas usually have problems. Danaya.
Yes. So I'll start from the traffic lights. That is very important for all of us. As it stands, almost on all our major roads, the traffic lights are not working. And what is actually also alarming is our street lights that do not function. Now, Accra and other major cities become dark at 5 p.m. And this actually, to me, poses a security threat. You would have people who hide under these lights, especially with on the roads where we have little flowers and trees growing. They hide under the bushy places, and then they launch attacks on their victims. I think that the MMDAs should take certain responsibility. They are in charge of our development. They should be able to go around and identify these malfunctioning street lights and traffic lights.
Right.
They have officers, and they should be able to identify and make reports. They should be able to come up with new strategy. Listen, we do not have money as an MDA. Yes, okay, we understand. But you have organizations on this stretch that actually benefits from people who use these roads. So you can actually even appeal to these organizations and companies that are on this stretch to even adapt a pole of a street light, a pole of a traffic light, and then they can put in money to maintain, because it's lack of maintenance. Most of these poles are there and they're just the bulbs that are gone off, and with some few cities you are able to repair them. But that is where they will leave some politicians to say that people have their own interests, and so they want the entire thing to go down, and then they can have new contracts and blah. But if you are a DC, you are an MC, if you're an assemblyman, you should be able to actually have a strategy to be able to raise little monies for some of these maintenance work.
Right.
If you take your bill, right? We pay for street lights. There is an item on the electricity ECG bill that goes, an allocation that goes to street lights. I have always asked myself this question: what are those monies used for? We should be able to actually have a new strategy. Now on the WhatsApp.
So it has to be very quick. We have about 3 minutes left. So and I've not done the daily graphic. So please. I'll
be done in a jiffy. Now, what we should know is that we, the users, should be extremely careful. All right. Just last week, I had a very senior honorable man WhatsApping me at 5 a.m. asking me to do him a favor. When I asked, "Senior, what can I do?" do you need me to come pick you from the airport or something? Because 5 a.m., that is actually what I can do for you. Then he tells me, oh, I'm sending you a number, send me 1,000 Ghana cedis. 5 a.m. So I woke my wife up and I said, Ajua, this man sees 1,000 Ghana cedis this time. He says, has he ever actually asked you for money? No, hold on a bit. So I kept calling the number, nobody was speaking. Then around 10 a.m. in the morning, he called me back and was like, Nana, my WhatsApp has been hacked. So you, the other person, are on the other side receiving the text messages requesting for monies and requesting for favors, should actually cross-check whether or not that individual who is behind the phone at the time.
Right. I think I've got some of those in the past, and I realized immediately, call the person, or I can know that this person would definitely not, and I just block and then move on before I even get in touch.
Let's all be cautious. I have to commend some of them. They send you, warnings to be cautious in dealing with these things, not to give out pins, to be sure that you're actually sending money to the people. Verify before you send. So, the telcos have taken it up. I don't know what the people in charge of actually, cybersecurity are doing about it.
Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. That's where I will wrap. Two stories I'm going to look at. Cocoa countries oxygen. That's Boahenedu, head of Cocoa Board, saying so. And then there's also men account for 60% of deaths, blood pressure, heart failure, stroke to blame. So 6 out of every 10 deaths, representing 60.3% of all deaths registered in the country in 2022, were male. Now, on the flip side, 343,913 male births, constituting 50.30% of all births, and 333,227 females, representing 49.2% of births, were registered, giving the sex ratio of 103 men per every 100 females in 2022. Now, these revelations were part of the first ever statistical report on the births and deaths registration put together by the Births and Deaths Registry, launched at a dissemination seminar in Accra yesterday. But my worry, the fact that 6 out of 10 deaths are, going to men, you could also attribute it to the economic pressures and the things that men have to deal with all the time. Look at once you have blood pressure issues, heart failure is not too far away, a brain aneurysm or stroke is not too far away, and then if you are not careful with maybe the cost of food and everything, you may end up in a bad way. The last story, Cocoa countries oxygen. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Cocoa Board, Joseph Boahenedu, has urged the public to see the cocoa sector as the lifeline and the oxygen of the country's economy. His reason is that the health of the Ghanaian economy depends on the performance of the country's cocoa sector. I'm going to leave it there, but my question back to him, then it means we are running out of oxygen. Because if you look at how cocoa production has dwindled and how galamsey and other things have affected it, then it means we are literally running out of oxygen. Those are my final thoughts. In a minute, we have to go, Nanaya. Your thoughts?
I would join you to say that we should actually be in his office this morning to ask him why he's actually taking our oxygen off us. I believe that cocoa is overpraised. If you look at the economic figures, if in other countries salt and oil palm is doing over 30-something billion dollars, and we talking in single digits, then we need to actually beef up. In the year 2014. Somewhere 15th July 2014 on My Joy Online. I think there's a newspaper, there's an online publication that was done from an interview that Alan John Kojo Tremantin held that says that Ghana must think beyond cocoa. And there was also another publication in 2022 on the Chronicles that says that Ghana must diversify.
Right.
And I think that this has been a consistent call by people who understand the moving economy to actually diversify or think beyond cocoa. If you come to the Ministry
I
of
think,
Trade,
Nanaya, your point is made. So we must diversify, look beyond cocoa. Unfortunately, our time has run out, but we're grateful to you for joining us this morning for
on
the
the
news
blood
review.
pressure.
And
on the blood pressure, I think that you forgot to also identify one of the elements seated closely by you.
Don't say women. Don't say women.
I didn't say
I wanted
women.
to say that it's because men don't
said,
simplify their lives. But since you brought it in, that's my response to that. We don't cause you problems. You don't simplify your lives. Benjamin, we have to go.
Ben,
is it that men don't simplify their lives,
men
or
don't simplify
that sometimes, not all the time, women complicate them? I mean, it's an angle to look at.
But you know
Nanaya, we're grateful. We're grateful for your time. Nanaya Osafo, political assistant to Alan Chemante, joined us for that conversation. Sweetie Abachi, we'll have this conversation when Muftawa is serving us sports. Yeah. But Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us bring you this segment as always, and they are offering you prostate screening for free and fertility screening for free. Just reach out to them at any of their branches here on Accra at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi, Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji, State Tema Committee 22, Techiman Hanswa, and the Siaman Zema. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Stay with us. Sports is up next.